Okay, let's talk about benchmark percents for a little bit. Now, benchmark percents are percents that are fairly easy to calculate that will tell us how reasonable our answer is. For example, if I buy a $100 item, can I estimate real quickly how much tax is? Well, and again, that's just to see if it's a mistake. Well, I know that tax is about 8%, which is a little bit less than 10%. I know easily to find out 10%. I just divide by 10, which means move the decimal one place to the left, and it should be a little bit less than $10. If I want to estimate what the tip will be at a restaurant, if I want to tip 20%, then I can just do 10% and double it. Or if I want to do a 15% tax, then I look at the tab and do the tax and then double it. Okay. So there's a lot of reasons to do this, but it's more to make sure that you haven't made a calculator error, that what your answer is makes sense. If you have a $100 item and the tax is $60, something's wrong. If you have a $100 item and the tax is 6 cents, something's wrong. So you need to make sure that that these benchmarks will help you with that. Okay, so some basic percents that are helpful to you. 50% as a fraction is 50 out of 100. Simplified is 1/2, which means that to find 50% of an item, we just divide by 2. It's half of it. 25% is 1/4. So this is 1/4 of the amount. So to find 25%, we just divide the amount by 4. 10% is 1/10 of the amount, which means we divide by 10. Now, the other thing about this that's real easy to divide by 10 is that just means they move the decimal one place to the left. So 10% of 100 is 10. 10% of 80 is 8. You move the decimal one. Okay. All right, so if we want to find these different benchmarks of $200, 10% of $200, I would just take 200 divided by 10, or I can take this decimal and move it one place to the left, and that is $20. 25% is 1/4, which is 200 divided by 4, which gives me 50. And 50% of 200 is equal to 1/2 of 200, which is 200 divided by 2, which is 100. And once again, this is a lot of things that help us with reasonableness. Okay, so that's what our next section is, a bunch of different scenarios here. We've got our benchmarks, our 10, 25, 50, and we want to look at those to think about the reasonableness of answers to these questions. Okay, so is 40% of 60 more or less than 30%? Well, 40% is close to 50, so I can say, all right, well, 50% of 60 is equal to 60 divided by 2, which is 30. Whoops. Okay. So since 50% of 60 is 30, 40% of 60 is less than 30. If 50% is 30, 40% is less than that, so it's going to be less than 30. Is 12% of 90 more or less than 9? Okay, well, on this one I would say 12% is close to 10%. So let's find 10% of 90 is 90 divided by 10, which is 9. That means that 12%, which is a little bit more than 10% of 90, is going to be more than 9. Okay, now let's ask the same type of question in a little bit different way. Is 228 a reasonable estimate for 26% of 860? Okay. Well, again, let's start with our closest benchmark, which is 25%. All right. So let's find 25% of 860 is 860 divided by 4, which is 215. So 25% is 215. 26.5% is a little bit more than 25. And 28 is a little bit more than 215. Okay. Then 228 is a reasonable estimate for 26.5%. Okay, now we've got a question that's asking it in even a little bit different way. Is $2,000 more or less than 52% of 5,000? Okay, well, close to, let's start with 50%. Okay. Since 50% of 5,000 is 5,000 divided by 2, which is 2,500. $2,000 is less than 50%, so it is also less than 52%. Okay. Now once again, I know you're going to be able to calculate all these, but this is just to check us for reasonableness. Okay, so let's think about percents, and this leads to a really interesting question. Part C of each of these is really interesting. All right, so Mark has set a healthy goal to lose 20 pounds this year. Is it possible for him to meet 50% of his goal? Okay, well, yes. %50 of 20 is 20 divided by 2, which is 10 pounds. He can lose 10 pounds. £10 this year. Is it possible for him to meet 100% of his goal? Well, yeah. He stays on his diet and does whatever. 100% of 20 is 20, is all of it. That means he can lose 20 pounds this year. Okay. Is it possible for him to meet 120% of his goal? What would that mean? Well, maybe he's really, he's on this diet, he's lost his 20 pounds, he actually decides he wants to lose a few more pounds. He actually can. Okay. So, yes, 120% of 20 is actually 24 pounds. And he can lose 24 pounds this year. It is physically possible. Well, let's look at this in terms of a political candidate. And the thing in here is you have to read carefully. A population is polled about whether or not they approve of a certain political candidate. Can the candidate have a 25% approval rating? What would that mean? Okay, well, yes, he can. That would mean 25% or 1/4 of the polled population approves. Can the candidate have a 100% approval rating? Well, yeah. Probably very unlikely. That would mean that 100% or all of the polled population approves. Okay. Can the candidate have a 125% approval rating? No. If 100% is all, is everybody, the most the candidate can have, can have is 100%. Now, what came up in class and what has come up before is, well, what if there are just more people? This goes back to the original question. A population is polled. So this is a fixed number of people. So if there are more people, that would mean that the population has changed. So of the population. Okay, so those are some introductions before we go into 3A on some stuff with percents. See you next video.